Hey crew, it's Bit, and I'm back with some more MBTI. Today we're going to be looking inside the mind of Matthew McConaughey from his appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast. But before we do, well, let's go over the system because you've never seen MBTI done quite the way that I've done it. I've changed the Myers-Briggs type indicator system just a little bit to make it work a little bit more logically consistent and hopefully a little more objectively as opposed to subjectively. We use this chart and these 5 questions in order to ask, are you focused on things or ideas? Is your primary concern the things that you can actually put your hands on, the physical examples of things and experiences from now into the past? Or are you focused on the ideas and the concepts behind it from now into the future? Between those, do you gather new ones or sort through old ones? Is it about, hey, look at all of these? Or is it about, hey, look at this one best or worst thing? Do you do that for yourself or for others? Self doesn't mean selfish. It means that you use it first and then you give it away. Tribe means that you give it away and then you get it for yourself. Are you rigid or flexible? Is it my way or the highway? Or are we trying to accommodate other people in the scenario? And direct and informative. Do you tell the whole story and stop? Or do you tell the whole story 2, 3, 4 times and chase down some rabbit holes? All of these add together so that we can find examples in other people for ourselves. We look at how Matthew communicates so that we can find something within ourselves that we identify with so that we can use this type grid on ourselves so that we can identify things that we want to strengthen within ourselves. With that being said, we're going to be using the Joe Rogan podcast to get a closer look at Matthew and the things that he thinks and the way that he receives information and gives it back. So let's dig in and look for these 5 questions.
It's ingrained in everyone's head. Every day, brush your teeth. Every day, break a sweat.
Just go do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good for so many things.
Yeah.
People talk about, no stress. I'm like, well, bullshit.
Yeah. That's
Stress is part of life. It means you give a damn. You know what I mean? You're going to have stress. You're supposed to have stress. But I know I handle things better and more thoroughly and more like myself, like I want to. The outcome's always better, and I enjoy doing it more if I do go break that sweat.
Okay, so that was a whole lot of ideas, right? Not any of that really was any particular thing. That whole little spiel was about the idea of.
And get those endorphins going, and that presses reset for me and shows me a little. It separates all the events, like I said, laterally, and they don't feel like they're stacked up on top of me.
Yeah.
Also, sleep for me.
How much do you get a night?
9.5.
Woo! I love it. That's great. I wish I could do that. God damn. When I get a 9.5 hour night, oh my God, I feel so good the next day. I feel amazing. I feel like a newer person.
I do 8 every day.
Well,
but I have to go to bed early to do it.
I'm lucky I have a wife that says, no. You get your 9.5. I'll get my 7, because I'd rather handle the stuff I handle that you don't while you're sleeping than be around you when you hadn't had enough sleep.
Well, you set it up.
That seems to be some self-focus.
Right. Yeah, I can't stress that enough too. Sleep is everything. Sleep, exercise, health, keep the body functioning correctly. All those things, they're not just. It's not a vanity thing, and it's not a laziness thing. It's literally like it improves the quality of the way the mind functions. And
I've done a typology video on Joe if you're interested.
Get better things done. The quality of your work will be better.
Definitely. Think more clearly. You don't waste your time chasing down bullshit. You don't, you do the right kind of work. We all know that. I love hard work, but I've got many times in my life where I'm doing the wrong kind of work. I love the kind of work where I've accomplished what I needed to do during the day, and I lay my head on the pillow and I'm exhausted because I got done what I needed to get done as best I could. I do not like the exhaustion at the end of the day where I'm like, man, I feel like I was just going to revolutions, man. I don't know if today had any ascension to it. I didn't build anything. Today was I don't know if maybe I went backwards, I don't like that kind of exhaustion.
And again, this seems to be ideas focused. It seems to be more self-focused. We're not getting a whole lot of rigid and flexible here. We're not really getting a whole lot of direct and informative. He seems to be leaning more towards the informative side, but we're not there yet.
And that's the kind of exhaustion that actually I don't go to sleep well. It actually keeps me up.
The only thing I get good out of those shitty days is a desire to never have those shitty days again. I think the good aspects of negative feelings is recognizing how good positive feelings are, how good the feelings of accomplishment are by failing. And that's why we're talking about, like no stress, just live in peace. That's a crock of shit. That's like never feel bad. Well, then you're never going to appreciate feeling good. Like we need hills and valleys.
Right, you just don't claim them.
I'm with you 100% on that. I mean, I write in my book, and I get asked a lot, well, do you believe in fear? And I'm like, well, hell yeah, I believe in fear.
Who the fuck doesn't believe in fear?
Oh, we know. You see those like, no fear.
Those people are so silly.
Like, no, I do. And they're like, do you fear? I said, I fear every single day. It's the overcoming of the fear. Or I know being raised, we were a physical discipline family. We got the belt. We didn't get grounded. My parents' motto was, we're not going to ground you because that takes away your time, and your time is your most valuable thing. No, we never got injured. We just get hurt at the time. You cried, and it was over with. But there were things that I...
Okay, so we're not, like, he's bringing up the examples, but it's not like this hard thing, right? He's not hammering in, my parents did this horrible thing to me, right? That's not it. It is a thing that has happened, but he's lightly skimming over the top of it. And to get to the idea, right? It seems like he may hold the ideas open, right? There's not a singular idea being passed. It is more keep these ideas in mind. That seems to be where it's going. He seems to be more self than tribe. Most of what he is doing is for him first. That's not necessarily selfish in the way that you think about it. It means that you find the value in it before you give it to the tribe. We're still looking for rigid and flexible, right? We're not getting a whole lot of that, although understanding why the discipline happened and explaining it away is a flexible trait, right? Understanding why people do stuff and compensating for it is more flexibility.
Did not do growing up and still do not do for fear of the consequences. That fear works for me going, I read time things I did not do growing up going like, no, that'd be a lot of fun, but not so much, not more fun than how much it's going to suck if I get caught.
That's some experience aversion, right? Best worst experience.
Physical consequences are, it's a very controversial subject because a lot of people think, I don't hit my kids, but a lot of people that I know who are my age were hit when they were young, and they look back on it and they say, you know what? I learned from that, and my parents didn't beat me.
See, I can't say that. I did get beat, but there were several times that I deserved it. Not always, not nearly always, right? But sometimes.
Physically punished me for something that I did wrong, and they didn't do it to be sadistic. They did it because they cared about me, and that's how they were raised. It's a very controversial subject because people get up in arms with the idea of hitting children. So you
spank, don't beat.
Yeah, you bringing it up of that it was beneficial to you is going to have a lot of people's hackles raised.
Sure.
Both my kids will tell you themselves that they were never abused, but they did get whoopings, and it did help them. Both of them will tell you that. And they're both grown, right? No resentment. We have great relationships.
And I get asked all the time.
It shouldn't be the first measure of discipline, but it should definitely be in your arsenal.
I've shared it openly how I was raised and what kind of corporal punishment we got. I don't choose to, discipline my children the same way my parents did. But I've said this before, I wouldn't trade one single of those ass whoopings I got for the values that were instilled in me from getting them. And I'm very clear. And
that's holding the ideas open too, right? Holding the values is holding the ideas, right? You've got the experience that's given them to you, but it's holding the ideas.
Because at the time that I earned every one I got. I earned every one. And we were a family, my parents were like, we get it over with, and over, take it, and it's over. And we don't hold grudges. No one's going to speak of it again. And if you got in trouble, that was the night Dad would take us across town to our favorite burger joint and let us stay up as late as we wanted. It was over. You got in more trouble if you brought something back up, to somebody in the family. Yeah, but what about when you did that? No. They already got in trouble for that. You don't bring it back up. You could not go to sleep.
Leave that experience alone.
In our family holding a grudge. My parents would stay up all night and let you miss school to sit there and keep hashing out until we could hug it out, cry it out, and say, I love you, and move on.
Sounds like you had a wise family. I mean, it's a controversial thing to say if they hit you. A lot of people would say there's other ways to do it. But
They're wrong.
But the way they made you hug it out and stay up all night and communicate.
Like, that mindset is the reason why we are where we are. No child should be beaten, but they all should have some discipline in their lives. And standing in a corner is not discipline.
Sounds very wise.
I mean, it can work, but not much.
I think it was. I don't, like I said, I don't choose to discipline my kids the way my parents disciplined me, but
That's holding open a new idea too, right? That's aversion to the experience. We're not getting a whole lot of ground me in the experience in this. There's not a whole lot of best worst experience. There's not a whole lot of look at these experiences. He does bring experiences, but it is in support of, right? It is not the overwhelming drive behind. It does seem to be more ideas focused, but it's not a singular idea. He's not narrowing it down to this is the best idea. It's more of a kaleidoscope of ideas, a smorgasbord, so to speak. This idea, this idea, this idea, this idea, this idea. Keep it open. I'm choosing not to discipline my kids the same way is a keep the idea open, right? He's not telling you what his idea of discipline is. He's not telling you the best way to do it. He's not giving you specific examples of what he is doing now. What he's doing is telling you, I have chosen something different than that past experience. That's using the past experience in support of this idea. Right, so we're looking, again, ideas, we're looking new, we're looking self, we're looking flexible, and direct and informative still up in the air too. I'm going to look for that specifically, rigid, flexible. He seems to be more flexible than rigid. We haven't heard a whole lot of my way or the highway in this. It's a whole lot of let's accommodate the thoughts of others. And so this is more about direct informative, and I'm looking for actual ideas, right? He is so top level with the ideas, keep open, that there hasn't even really been solid examples of ideas.
I'm sure don't judge them or say what they did was wrong.
Well, they came from a different era as well, right?
Yeah, they did from a different era, yeah.
That's a thing that is very difficult for people to come to grips with, is that human beings that were raised 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, it was a different world. It just was different. Yep. And we know more now, and like you're saying, you do not choose to discipline your children now.
Can you imagine the arrogance? Like, this is off topic, but the arrogance of saying, you know what? We've been evolving for 20 million years. We have, over the course of this 20 million years, consistently disciplined our children in the exact same way, and it has led to the progress we now have. But you know what? I think maybe everybody else in history has been wrong. That's a little bit cocky. I'm not going to lie. Just a little bit.
That way. But it was so common back then.
And that's not to say that over the top discipline, right? Ever.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was, my parents probably thought they were taking it easy on their boys more than their parents treated them.
Yes.
They probably had it much more harsh.
Yeah.
There's some more flexibility.
And it's a like I said, there are things I did not do that I should not have done for fear of hitting my backside. So yeah. There's value in that fear and consequences. And consequences go both ways. There's good ones and the bad ones. There's a consequence for everything we do. But there were definitely things I didn't do that I should not have done for the fear of the consequences.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pop the typology over. It appears that he is more direct than informative. We'll look for confirmation of that, but he's not extending, right? We're like 4 questions in, 16 minutes into the interview. So it's not like he's dragging it out. He's not running down a bunch of rabbit holes. He's given the whole answer. Sometimes direct people can have worked on their directness so that they can expound a little bit more, and that seems to be what we're dealing with here. So he appears to be direct. We're going to go ahead and do the typology, and we'll look for confirmations on the other side of it. But what are we looking at so far? He seems to be about the ideas, right? So that's going to put us on the right-hand side of the screen. He seems to be motivated for himself. He seems to be getting the new ideas and not sorting through to the old ones. He's not sticking with sensations at all. He's not like he's really adverse to bringing up the experiences. It's more about this idea. And so it appears that he is going to be I, he's going to be N, he's going to be F, and he's going to be a P. So that's going to be an INFP. Let's go ahead and pull that up as soon as I can find my graphic for it. Where is my INFP graphic? Right there. Got it. Sorry. Sometimes it takes me a minute. Now we're going to get to the last part, the direct and informative. He seems to be more direct than informative. He's not chasing off down rabbit holes. He is telling the whole story, but he's not telling the story 2 or 3 times. So that's got to deal with the third slot going down. The first 2 slots are how you get information, right? Just how it comes to you and you process it and what you feel responsible for. And then it's about how you give it back. So if you are introverted, you are direct. You are holding the information back for yourself. If you are extroverted in the third slot, you're giving all of the information away quite freely. You're informative. He appears to be introverted in this slot. That means he is going to be an INFP straight down the board, no alternate included. And so that means that he is going to be concerned with his morals and how he feels about the situation. He's going to do that without even thinking about it. He's going to understand what the morals are of that situation regardless. He is going to feel responsible for holding open the possibilities, to making sure that people see this idea, this idea, this idea, this idea, this idea. Not necessarily any one particular idea in full or in detail, but all of these ideas should be considered. He's going to feel responsible for making sure that happens. He's going to see forward into the future and get defensive over the SI, right? That is the actual events that happened. That is the actual sensations that have happened. That is the best and worst of the sensations and the things. It's things that have actually happened and that you can actually put your hands on and touch. So he's going to get defensive over, okay, that's not how this happened. This is how that happened. And he's going to miscommunicate and misunderstand other people's thoughts. It's not that he dismisses them. It's just that he already thinks he knows. And so he's going to miss it. He doesn't get a lot of information there. You get a lot of information at the top and at the bottom. It's good information at the top. It's not good information at the bottom. And they filter through the stack. And by the time they get to the middle, it's a little bit low reception. So you have to work a little bit extra hard to get that part done. He will have a tendency to think that he knows what people are thinking, but actually he has the situation wrong. The thoughts are not quite correct. He's going to have a tendency to lend a lot of weight to experts, but they're not necessarily the correct experts. He really wants to do with his life is the FE, right? That is making sure that everyone else feels good. It is about the ethics of the situation, right? We as a tribe have decided that this is the ethics, and he wants to make sure that everybody is following the ethics in a logical manner, and he does that by feeding the heart through the solar plexus. The solar plexus is where you take in the nourishment that gives you the ability to do what you want, and for him that is going to be finally narrowing down into the best idea. He's got all of these ideas to choose from, but he doesn't want to choose any. He wants to keep them all open, so he has to learn to choose the best option. In order to do that, you have to work on the very bottom of your stack. The sacral is the sexual energy, is the trickster energy. It is the part where you intentionally choose the wrong thing. Nobody ever says, hey, I want to do the wrong thing, but people do it all of the time. And most of the time when they do it, it is because of these 2 slots. You get a lot of energy in these slots, but they're bad energy. It's coming from the wrong side, and you don't realize it. For him, that is going to be the current things, right? He is going to intentionally choose the wrong experiences. Intentionally choose the wrong things, right? He buys the thing, and it's accidentally the wrong thing. He thinks he's doing the right thing because he's getting defensive over what the right thing is, right? The part you get defensive over is the part that actually happens, the actual physical thing. So he thinks that he already knows what the best thing is, but he's missing it. That's what the SE does in the trickster spot. You miss all the other things. You think that this thing is the best thing, and that's it. You're defensive over it. You won't even look at the other things. You have to learn to look at the other things. That is part of life. And then finally we get to the base. The base is what you do wrong. You don't even think about it. It is unintentional. It is natural. It is automatic. And for him, that is going to be the logic. He's not going to be logically consistent in his life. He's going to have problems with the yes-no checks. He's going to have problems with consistency over not doing the things, but like understanding why the things, right? That's part of missing the tribe's thoughts, is because he doesn't understand the logic behind his own. And it's even worse than that, because the logic is literally flawed, right? It is literally choosing no when you should be choosing yes. It is literally choosing right when you should be choosing wrong, whatever it happens to be. It's literally choosing the wrong thing without even thinking about it the wrong way. If any of this is something that you identify with, if you identify with the way that Matthew is thinking or talking or expressing himself, that could be an indicator that you too might be an INFP, and that you too have this stack to deal with. The Infinite Integration System, which I have a whole playlist on, teaches you how to use prayer, meditation, and fasting to integrate these things into yourself. You use the whole stack all the time to varying degrees of efficiency. My system is designed to help you use it with greater efficiency. I want you using the bottom of the stack just as efficiently as you use the top. And the way to do that is to take the time to learn where it is you're going wrong in the stack. And I have a whole playlist devoted to that. But if prayer, meditation, and fasting is a little bit too much for you, I have it broke down to just the scientific parts with the MBTI parts, so that you can, without having to deal with the prayer, fasting, and meditation, learn how to deal with this in a different manner. We're going to now look for some confirmations. We're going to go back over and we're going to watch a few more minutes. I don't like taking the whole podcast. It's awfully quick, so it's always recommended that you go back and get the full context of the conversation. Make sure that you understand what they're talking about. Make sure that you understand where I'm coming from. And if you disagree with me, let me know down below. But the confirmations we're going to be looking for are, is he trying to make the moral choices? Is it about how he feels? We've seen several examples of that already. Is it about keeping the ideas open? Does he feel responsible for making sure that you're not shutting down ideas? Is he defensive over the actual things that have happened, right? Best, worst situations. Is he defending those? And is he misunderstanding or misrepresenting other people's thoughts? Is he missing the logic choices? We look at the base to see if he is missing the basic yes-no questions or all the things. With that being said, let's dive back in and get some confirmations. Let's go.
Very useful to me.
Is this, the writing of this book, is some of it almost like letters to your younger self, like a lesson to people who are like you coming up? Because one of the things that's so beneficial to young people with reading autobiographies and memoirs of successful people who lived extraordinary lives is you get to see all the thought process. You get to see the warts, the failures, the whole thing, the fears, the anxiety. You get to see it all. So you go, oh, that Matthew McConaughey guy, he's a normal dude. He's not just the guy from Dallas Buyers Club and all these movies. He's a normal human being, and maybe I can one day achieve heights like him as well.
Or maybe I read this book and I'm someone who feels like, you know, as we often do when we're going through a crisis, that we're the only ones. And it's only happened to me. I'm the center of the universe. No one else will understand. And you can read and go, well, here's a guy who's successful, who, shoot, I even maybe thought he just kind of rolls out of bed and makes everything look easy, which you find out I try to work to get to that point. But maybe you look and you hear it and you go, like, oh, he went through some similar things. I share some stories in here that are very subjective to me. But the more subjective and personal I got, the more I found that, oh, these are more relatable to the more amount of people. out there. So you may read a story and go, I have that story, a similar story in my life. Well, here's how McConaughey handled it, or wished he would have handled it, or here's some help he got along the way. Here's somewhere where he took a walkabout with himself and found out some things about himself. Maybe that's something I could do for myself. So there are some tools.
So this is trying to understand the tribe's rationale, right? He's trying to walk into the tribe's rationale, and he may or may not be able to understand it. That's a fairly good one, but he is also dealing with the experiences, right? What are other people going to take from this experience? And he's not necessarily being defensive over it, but it is about these past experiences and these specific past experiences.
In the book for someone to see themselves in and help navigate our way out of crisis, red and yellow lights, but also how to navigate things when we are catching green lights. Because I have a chapter in here called The Art of Running Downhill. I've self-sabotaged myself when things were going too well before. Until I learned that really wasn't my right to put a roof over my expectations for myself. And who the hell did I think I was?
Well, that's more common than not, isn't it? There's the people get what.
That's about the feeling, right? That's about making sure the ideas are open, right? Don't limit yourself. Don't put a ceiling on your own expectations of yourself. Is about hold the ideas open for myself. And so that is a responsible FE there, or a responsible NE there, right? He is responsible for holding open the ideas for himself, so it makes him feel good. That would be the FI. And so that's a fairly good confirmation there.
What they call imposter syndrome. It's you don't feel like you deserve all the good things that are happening to you, and it just seems odd. You see it happen to other people, and it almost makes sense. You see other people being very successful, you're detached. But when it's happening to you, it's almost like this is uncomfortable because this is not normal, and so I'm going to fuck this up so that I feel like I used to feel before, which at least, even if it was failure, it's comfortable. I'm accustomed to it.
I need some resistance.
Yes.
And look, and I think there's very healthy ways to create resistance in our lives when we are on so-called easy street.
Yeah.
That maybe we're not challenging ourselves in the right way. That we need to create resistance to overcome it, to feel most alive. But there's also foolish times to create resistance. And the fact of that is, things are going so well, you think that's how it's going to be for the rest of your life. No, trust me, the uphill's coming. The real drama's coming. Don't create any false drama in front of you right now, because you're
keep this idea open.
Kind of patronizing yourself. The real drama's going to come. Someone is going to get sick. You are going to get hurt. Something will happen in your life. The world will do unto you, or you'll do it unto yourself. So don't trip yourself running downhill and face plant and break your frickin' nose just because you needed some resistance running downhill.
Yeah.
Because
don't repeat my experience.
It must be that uphill's coming. You know what I mean? But to go back to the first part of that, I'm a big fan of creating resistance to keep myself in check and to make sure that I'm feeling most alive to overcome the right things in my life.
Yeah,
and again, that's about feelings, right? That is holding his feelings.
Well, I find physical resistance is the best thing to calm my mind and to provide physical challenges that allow me to. It allows me to deal with success easier, because there's bullshit that I have to deal with, but the bullshit is physical. And it's sometimes as challenging mentally to do, like very physically exerting exercises, or particularly jiu-jitsu or martial arts, because it breaks you down. And so then the other stuff that's sort of, it seems like it should be complicated, but it's not. You don't know why. You don't sweat it as much.
Wait, and it sobers you up.
Yes. In
a very literal way. And in the same way, it's a daily routine to sober yourself up, to throw off the mendacious bullshit in your life that you were so concerned about, and get down to what really needs to happen. Mountains become molehills. It's big moments in our life sober us up too. I know my father moving on and passing on from this life sobered me up.
That's the best experience defense right there.
In a way that I then stepped up and said, oh, you don't have your dad to rely on anymore to catch you when you fall. All these things he's been teaching you that you've been kind of making B minuses in life. Now you better start making A's at him, because he's not there. So you better take some ownership. And I remember when he moved on, I carved this in a tree: be less impressed, more involved. And what it was, as soon as he passed away, I noticed that all the things that I was revering in life, mortally, like the fame, people, that success,
All these ideas.
money, they lowered down to eye level. Things that I was looking up at, and all the things that I was patronizing and condescending and going, oh, sloughing off, that's not worthy of me. They rose up to eye level. And I remember saying, boy, the world is flat. I'm looking it in the eye. I see further, I see wider, I see clearer. I've got to take ownership of myself. And I stood with my heart higher, I stood with my head higher, and I walked forward and started doing things in that way that I was saying earlier, without asking so much permission all the time, and got a lot more done and became a lot more myself and found more satisfaction.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this one up because it does seem like he is a good fit for the INFP. He is very much concerned about his feelings, right? That is the overwhelming thing. He does that without even really thinking about it. He seems to be very much hold the ideas open, right? He is bringing these experiences in, and they are the best worst, but they're all in support of the idea, right? It's not about the actual thing. It is about the thing that it's about the idea that the thing is actually supporting. It's actually backing up. He does seem to be bringing forward the SI. He's a little bit less defensive over it than we would probably see, but he's not being checked on it. He's not being challenged on it. He's being agreed with on them. So there's no reason for him to be defensive over that. He is not giving many examples. That's the word. He's not giving many examples of what the tribe is actually thinking about, right? He's talking a whole lot about his feelings and how he thinks that this experience plays into it, but not so much about what the tribe is thinking about pretty much anything. The tribe is being brought into consideration to buy his book or to enact his many ideas here, but not necessarily overwhelmingly concerned. What did you do? Overwhelmingly concerned with that. So this does seem to be a fairly good fit. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. If you identify with the things that we have talked about here today, if it's all about your feelings and keeping the ideas open, there's a good chance that you are the INFP, and you probably want to check out the videos over here. I'll have them linked so that you can just click and go and start to get a grip today, right? Start to get the framework built a little bit stronger, because that's what we're doing here. We're looking for examples in other people of the way that their mind works so that we can confirm within ourselves, right? We're looking for typing ourselves. This is a self-improvement program. I'm not a doctor. I'm not trying to be. I am not medically diagnosing anything. I'm not trying to. What I'm trying to do is give you the toolbox to help you fix yourself in the way that I used it for myself and other people have used it for themselves. Hopefully, I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult topic. I have changed the way the typology works. MBTI is not the same as what you are used to seeing. If you came here expecting the old MBTI, you're probably not even sure what I'm talking about. It is highly recommended to check it out from the beginning and understand the definitions and the terms so that you can begin today to change for yourself the things that you want to change in your life, to become the person that you want to be, to reach your maximum potential. You have to learn where the pitfalls are. You have to learn how to strengthen the pitfalls. And that's what we are here for. That's what this channel is here to help you find the tools, to get you where you want to be in your life. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pit State. Peace.